Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. One of the most frustrating things at work is miscommunication. This can even be disaster if you know it but not fixing it. But how can you fix it? Well, if you would like to fix it, stay tuned. I've got something interesting for you. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do like, share, subscribe now. Whatever the industry you are coming from, you can come from an IT industry, you can come from a coaching industry, you can come from a teaching industry, or even you can come from a cine industry. In all these industries, there is only one thing that's common. That's communication. All of us are thinking that the communication is the problem of someone else. The other person could have communicated better. But what if we take responsibility of avoiding all the miscommunication and bringing effective communication onto the table? How would that be? It's that we will have to keep few things in our mind when we communicate with others. Once you have them in, then you will no longer have the problem of miscommunication. Let's take a look. If you see most of the time your team members are not listening to you, or they do exactly straight opposite to what you have communicated, or you see most of the time you are having conflicts with your team only in terms of the communication, then this video is for you. And in this video, we are going to take an example of a person communicating to his team and what are the things that he has to keep in his mind to get the best out of his team and to avoid any miscommunications. Let's take a look. First thing that you have to do is having clarity on what you are going to communicate. You see, most of the miscommunications happen here exactly. People don't have clarity on what they want to communicate and they simply initiate the conversation. What happens once you initiate the conversation, you get confused and you keep your team confused and totally you take the focus away from the conversation. All you have to do is, before even initiating a conversation, sit for some time, relax, and have a clarity on what you are going to exactly communicate with your team. Then go ahead and initiate your conversation. The next thing that you have to do is underestimate people's understanding. What? Underestimate people's understanding? Yes, of course. See, human beings tend to lose their focus very quickly. So when you are communicating a very important point to a team, you have to ensure that you over communicate it. Not everyone will get your point at the first shot. So it's good that you keep repeating your point again and again to reach the large audience. Try this. You will see a massive difference in your communication. So the next thing that you have to do is clarify and double check. Now that you have a clarity on what you are going to communicate and you use the principle of over communication to multiple times communicate to your team members. But do you think by doing all this, all of your team members would have got exactly what you were trying to communicate? The answer is possibly no. That's where this principle of clarify and double check comes into the picture. Most of us don't do this. We all assume on ourselves that whatever we have communicated, the other person who is in the receiver end would have got exactly what we are trying to communicate. But that's not true. There is a high possibility that they could have got your point in a different perspective. So how do you ensure that whatever the perspective that you've been communicating has received your audience? For that, all you have to do is clarify and double check. You can ask your team members to repeat what they've understood, and you can validate if their understanding is aligned with what you communicated, and that's where you see the success. Alright, so I'm sure if you're following all of this, whatever you wanted to communicate, you would have communicated very effectively to your team members. But this doesn't guarantee that 100% all of them would have got it. What? Yes, of course. There are still few people might still miss it out. And for them, you have to go an extra mile of applying another technique that's called follow-up technique. Yes, you know what? I will tell you, you don't need to apply this technique to everyone. Just see if someone is still missing out, irrespective of following all those techniques that we discussed earlier. Then apply this follow-up technique to the ones who are missing it out. Right, so what does this follow-up technique do? After following all these techniques, if you find someone is missing out, then ask them to send their understanding by writing to you. Let's say by an email, let's say by a chat. And that's where you can validate their understanding. If you see someone has missed out, if there is a gap in their understanding, you can correct it right there. Follow this and you will see the magic. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you with the next video soon. Bye.